start going
It started.
Okay, chapter 13, class, page 140. Now this is the last chapter, so it's a really good chapter. The journey by sea was much faster than the journey across land. After the first day, when he had been sick, both from excitement and from the rolling of the deck, Tree Ear enjoyed watching the sea and all its changes, and the sky looked different, much larger than it looked over land. Still, his main feeling during the journey was one of tingling impatience. At last the boat drew near Cholpo, and Tree Ear leaned eagerly over the side. How familiar the village looked, even from this strange new angle. He had never been on a boat, right? So he's coming in from the water. He's never seen his home from that angle, right? In his eagerness, Tree Ear had to stop himself from leaping into the sea when the boat was still far from the shore. The final stretch of the trip, from deep water to the beach in a small rowboat, seemed to take the longest of all. From the landing beach, Tree Ear hurried toward the village. He had decided to go to Min first to deliver the message about the commission, and then return to the bridge to tell Crane Man the news. No one answered his call at the front of the house, so Tree Ear walked around to the back. Ajima was in the vegetable patch, crouched over with her back to him. He cleared his throat. Ajima? She whirled around so quickly that for a moment he feared she would fall over. Tree Ear, she exclaimed, her face breaking into the 1,000 wrinkles of her smile. You are safely returned. Yes, Ajima. The day was chilly. Autumn fully arrived, but her welcome swept over Tree Ear like a warm breeze. He bowed and could not keep himself from smiling in return. Is the master home? He is at the draining site, she hesitated, as if making a decision, then spoke again. You have news for him? Tree Ear felt his smile grow broader. Yes, Ajima. He bowed again to her and scampered through the yard toward the stream. Tree Ear slowed to a walk as he neared the clearing. He balled his fist tightly to contain his excitement. Master Potter, he called. Min was stirring the clay in the drainage bed. He put the paddle down and wiped his hands on a rag. You are back, he said simply. Tree Ear bowed. I saw the royal emissary, he said, trying to keep his voice from sounding too important. He has assigned you a commission. Min closed his eyes and drew in a long, long breath. He let out the air in a sigh that was almost a whistle and opened his eyes. For a moment he stared off into the distance over Tree Ear's shoulder, then walked over to a boulder by the stream and sat down. He indicated another boulder at his side. So he's saying to Tree Ear, here, come sit here. Tree Ear sat down, disappointed that Min was so subdued. Tree Ear's own heart was still pounding so hard that he could feel his pulse in his throat. He glanced surreptitiously at the potter's face. Why did Min look so solemn? Was this not the news he had waited nearly all his life? Tree Ear shrugged in his mind. It was what he should have expected from the potter, really. I mean, how has he always acted to Tree Ear? Just indifferent or mad or mean or short and abrupt, right? Min leaned forward, starting to speak, then stopped and shook his head. I am sorry, Tree Ear, he said at last. Your friend from under the bridge. This is the first time he has ever called him Tree Ear. It's always been boy, you know, get this, get that. He's never said Tree Ear. But he said, I'm sorry, Tree Ear, your friend from under the bridge. Tree Ear froze. Crane Man. He was up on the bridge a few days ago. A farmer tried to cross with too great a load on his cart. The wood of the bridge railing was rotten. Your friend was bumped and jostled, and the railing broke. Tree Ear closed his eyes. He wanted Min to stop talking. Min leaned forward and put his hand on Tree Ear's shoulder. Also a big deal. The water was so cold. Your friend was old. The shock was too great for his heart. So he had a heart attack from the cold water when he hit the water. Tree Ear felt very strange. It was if he had been stepped out of his body and was watching himself listen to men. This other detached Tree Ear noticed that men's eyes were soft, his face gentle. It was the first time Tree Ear had ever seen him so. Men was still speaking. I am told that it was very sudden, Tree Ear. Your friend did not suffer. He reached into his waist pouch and drew forth a small object. When they pulled him from the river, he was clutching this in his hand. It was the little ceramic monkey, still on its crude string. Men held it forth, but Tree Ear could not move to take it. Tree Ear heard Ajuma's voice then. She seemed to appear out of thin air at his side. Or had she been there the whole time? The sounds and sights around him were wavering, as if seen and heard through water. Tree Ear, you will stay with us tonight, she said. See, he's in shock. That's why he's acting this way, why he couldn't take the monkey from him, why he can't hear anything properly. He's in shock. With his thoughts still outside his body, Tree Ear watched himself stand and allow Ajuma to lead him back to the house. Men called after him. It is fine work, Tree Ear, he said. What's he talking about?
The monkey.
Yeah, so he has seen Tree Ear's work now. He saw the monkey and how detailed the work was, and he complimented him. This whole 2 or 3 pages is huge for their relationship. The words came to Tree Ear as if from a great distance. His ears could not be trusted. Perhaps he had only imagined them. He and Ajuma stepped over the threshold. The part of Tree Ear's mind that was still working marveled at this. He had never been inside the house before. He caught glimpses of men's work, a fine teapot on a shelf, an inscribed jar that held cooking tools. The room seemed neat and spare, but not cold with tidiness. Ajuma showed him to a small, narrow room with a sleeping mat already unrolled, then left him alone. Tree Ear lay down on the mat. He closed his eyes to the light and his mind to what he had just heard, and fell into a deep, dark hole of sleep. The next morning, Tree Ear rose long before the temple bell. He left the silent house and walked to the stream, where he stood staring at the motion of the current. Then he bent and picked up a flat stone, but threw it so carelessly that it did not skip at all. It dropped into the water with a loud clunk. So he was trying to skip rocks like he and Crayman used to do. Tree Ear threw a second rock, then a third. Suddenly he was hurling a barrage of rocks into the water, one after the other, harder and harder, until the water rolled and foamed beneath the rain of rocks. In a senseless frenzy, Tree Ear threw leaves and sticks and clods of dirt, whatever he could get his hands on. Finally, he had no breath left. He bent over, clutching his stomach and panting, then knelt in the mud of the stream bank and watched the troubled water subside. If he hadn't volunteered to take men's work to Songdo, what then? He might have been there. He could have helped. The current carried a drifting leaf into a little eddy. Tree Ear's thoughts swirled back to the day that he had given his friend the gift. He recalled Craneman's solemn pleasure and how he had immediately sought a piece of twine to keep the monkey near him always. Craneman had never even hinted that Tree Ear should not make the journey. He had been proud of Tree Ear's courage. Memories layered themselves in Tree Ear's mind. Craneman's willingness to discuss things with him, the stories he told, the mountain secrets he shared, his reading of the world around them, the way he loved to joke.